So we're waiting for Adrian and Deborah, are we?
No, Adrian's there.
Oh, Adrian's there. Right, so just Deborah now?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Deborah's an apology, isn't she?
Di is.
I think she sent me an email today.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Well, welcome everyone to this February meeting of the Gawler Heritage Collection Committee meeting. We would like to acknowledge this land that we meet on today is the traditional lands for the Gawler people, and that we respect their spiritual relationship with their country. We also acknowledge the Gawler people as the custodians of the Greater Adelaide region, and that their cultural and heritage beliefs are still as important to the living Gawler people today. So everyone's here apart from Di and Deb, who are apologies. Are there any motions to grant leave of absence? No. Any leave of absence? No. And no non-attendance. Are there any declarations of interest? Would someone like to move confirmation of last month's minutes?
I'm happy to do that, Chair.
Thank you. Mayor Karen Redmond, seconded by Helen Hennessy. Any discussion? Those in favour, please show. How are we going? Everybody? Thank you.
Yes.
Declare that carried.
Good.
Right. Is there any business arising from the minutes other than what's on the agenda? No. If not, item 6, information reports. Gawler Heritage Collection inquiries. Would you like to start us off on that, Jacinta?
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, everyone. As the committee will see from the numbers of inquiries we've received, we tend to have them a little bit down at this time of the year. People are more interested in history in the winter months than when they're out and about. But again, we're getting inquiries and visitors from interstate. So they've come in from Cairns and Tasmania. We also had visitors from outside of our region. So they came from the city to come to the Heritage Centre again. And so far this year, we've been quite steady with our visitor numbers.
Thank you, Jacinta. Any discussion? Any questions? Helen?
Just thanking the staff for putting in the visitor numbers as well. I think that's a good balance to have both inquiries and visitor numbers. So thank you.
If anybody else wants to comment or make a discussion? No? If not, would someone like to move the acceptance of that report? Helen, seconded. I can't see anyone else. Is anyone second?
Paul and Adrian are both waving at you.
Well, I can't see them. Oh. Okay, yes, I can see Paul. Thank you, Paul, and hi, Adrian. Okay, Paul seconded. Any discussion? No, we've had some discussion on that. Okay. Those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you, everyone. 6.2, we've done. Cultural heritage update, sorry. Did you want to talk about that, Jacinta?
So through the chair, David generally speaks to that one.
Right, David, you're on.
Thank you, Chair. Just letting
the committee know that the budget is operating extremely well for the Heritage Centre, noting that obviously our exhibition cost is the large outlay for the Heritage Centre each year, and we're in the process of the finalisation of that exhibition at the moment. So those costs will be occurring over the next quarter, but all other things are going extremely well and on budget. So it's excellent work from the team. But happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Any questions from anyone? Any comments? No? All right. Someone like to accept that report? Move to accept that report? Can't see any hands up.
So we have Adrian's moving.
Adrian, and seconded by
Okay.
Ellen again. All right. Thank you. Those in favour, please show. Against? Carried. Thank you, everyone. 6.3, eHive catalogue update from July last year to January this year. Did you want to speak to that at all, Jacinta?
So thank you, Chair. I'd just like to bring the committee's attention once again the stellar work of the volunteer team of the Cultural Heritage Centre. You may have noticed in the previous update report that there was over 800 hours of work by the Cultural Heritage Centre volunteer team in the last 6 months, which is double for the period before. Our team is growing, they are active, they are engaged and working very hard, and we're particularly thankful for all of the work they do. So I just did want to bring that to the attention of the committee when we're looking at the eHive catalogue. As the report says, there is a discrepancy between the numbers of records that are public and private, and that's based on the lag time between when staff can finalise and attach an image to that eHive record. But once again, the fact that they're private, staff can still access those records and help people who are in the centre with their inquiries. We're helping with the research of the exhibition based on those private records, and we help the inquiries that come in via phone and email. So they're still a very, very important part of our access to the collection on a day-to-day basis. As we move through, we'll hope, well, with this number of volunteers that we currently have all diligently working, there'll probably be a discrepancy for a long time. We've always known that cataloguing the Gawler Heritage Collection was a long-term project. We are moving through and gaining more and more control, is the term that I put on it, which means that staff can access information about items quickly and effectively and answer the queries that come to us about those collections. So we're very grateful to our catalogue volunteers for all the work that they're doing. 2 of our volunteers are just about to clock up 500 hours each, which in a centre that's only been open since 2019 and in a COVID period, I think is quite outstanding. So again, our thanks to those volunteers.
Thank you. Thank you. Any discussion or comments, anyone? Yes, Karen?
Yeah, thank you, Jacinta. Just a question, as you're working through the collection and starting to understand it, what's the thinking around preservation of items, or what is there any prioritisation that's occurring in relation to preservation or repair or restoration?
Through the chair, when an item receives a catalogue entry, it is given a basic listing on whether it needs conservation. Now, for many of those, it's fairly minor conservation and the volunteers put that in. Anything that's bigger than that is brought to the attention of staff. We have a running list of items that we think need to come before the committee. I've got some ready to come to the next meeting. They need an assessment from Art Lab before I bring them to the committee. But yes, we are working through. However, as it is a large collection and there is still quite a bit of it off-site, I think we will discover when more of that comes back. And I'd just like to remind the committee that we routinely bring things back from the off-site storage. But as more of that comes back, there will be more priorities identified. But we do have a running list. Everything has a conservation assessment at the time that it's catalogued.
Thank you, Jacinta.
So just to clarify, that there will be a report coming up at the next meeting informing the committee of what the next round of restoration will be. Is that what you were saying, Jacinta?
Through the chair, yes. So it will be the suggestion of the staff for the committee's input into which items they think need priority based on available budget for this financial year.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else who I can't see? Helen?
Maybe to add to that is that from my experience, and I'm not sure at what point, but sometime before cataloguing, the items are actually housed appropriately. So I've seen evidence that they've been unfolded and they've been placed in proper archival storage, whether it be an envelope or a folder or whatever. So in a way, I would consider that would be some preserving is happening as each item is processed. Would that be correct, Jacinta?
Through the chair, yes, as the very basics of conservation management, when we unwrap an item from either off-site storage or currently in our collection, we then store it in the most appropriate storage container for that object at that time. On occasion, I've had to then go out and order specific boxes for different items. And if we remember the teapot, that needed a specialty box created, but they're always, unfortunately, a lot of the items that were in and are in off-site storage are simply in boxes. So they come straight out of those. They go into polypropylene, which is the gold standard for best practice in archival management. And that's where all of our items, apart from items that need specific care, but again, they are being cared for according to best practice. So there are a couple of different materials we'll use for different items. But yes, they are. And as an example that I can give, a dress came in to us on loan for the next exhibition. It came in a dry cleaner's bag. It's been immediately taken out of that. It's wrapped in cotton and Tyvek now, and then it will go into a box once I can get the box put up here prior to the exhibition.
Jacinta, anyone else who wants to contribute or ask a question? No? Anybody I can't see? No? Okay. Would someone like to move acceptance of that recommendation, please? All right, Helen, and someone else? Adrian, you can have a go. Adrian seconded it. Thank you. Okay, those in favour, please show. Against, carried. Thank you, Jacinta. Right, moving on. Updated motions list, 7.1. Is there any discussion on that anyone wants to raise?
No.
No? History Festival, who's going to talk to us about that? Jacinta?
Through the chair, it's my pleasure to inform the committee that the Cultural Heritage Centre will be involved in 6 activities for the History Festival of 2022. We are undertaking a workshop on caring for your treasures. That was particularly popular last year and brought people from the city, quite a number of people from the city for that one. We will be having guided tours of the new exhibition. We will also be doing a basic family history workshop for those who are new to family history. We'll be doing that in conjunction with the library. We are hosting a panel discussion of 3 acclaimed authors who have written books on historical figures. The title of the event is "You Can't Make This Up, Writing About Historical Figures." So that's Professor Philip Paxton, Dr. Philip Butters, and Dr. Anne Black, who will be coming back to Gawler for that one. So they've all written books on historical figures. And while they will talk a little bit about their books, they're going to talk about the process of writing about living, or people who have lived, and what records are available, what records can be challenging to find, and all that sort of thing. Cultural Heritage Centre is partnering with the Friends of Williston Cemetery to present Gawler, A Grave Situation. That will be the launch of the film that was made about the restoration of the Hiskey grave at the cemetery. And if you'd like more information on that, I think Helen would be the person to fill you in on that. And we're also working with the Gawler Public Library. We've got a local author who's launching her book, which is 2020, Why We Needed It. And it's a concept of modern history. What makes history doesn't necessarily have to be from a long time ago. So we've got the 6 events. And then, of course, the Visitor Information Centre will be running a tour of all the hotels in Gawler.
Wow, that's a lot, isn't it? It's amazing. Any discussion?
Yeah, just congratulations, sorry, on the quality of the panel. That will draw people from across the state, those three authors. Well done.
And a great title. I love the titles. Both of them, both the brave one and the talk. Anyone else want to contribute?
Just if I can, Judy.
Yes.
I've got in my diary a History Network meeting on Thursday, the 17th of February at 1 o'clock via Zoom, just for all the people involved in History Month, just to provide an update and then collate. So just so that people know that date that is in my diary. I'm assuming it is in other people's diaries as well.
Yes. I'm not sure that the Zoom links come out, but certainly in the diary.
Yeah, it is. It's certainly in mine, Helen.
I haven't got one yet.
Through the chair, we'll make sure that's redistributed through Angela. That's not a problem at all.
Lovely.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
There's 18 invitees, so you must have it somewhere in your diaries.
I've got it in my diary, but I haven't got the link.
Okay, all right. Yeah, David, if you could follow up on that and make sure.
Yes, certainly, no problems.
Yeah, lovely.
Any further discussion on History Month?
Well, I think it's going to be an absolutely fantastic History Month with our brochure, with our diaries, with all the different activities that people are doing. I think it'll be smashing.
Yep.
Well, and there's going to be a launch with the calendar again, isn't there? So really good marketing at a local level, and thankfully History Trust has taken the feedback from last year, and there will be a printed program reinstated. So I think that's another good move too.
Yeah, maybe we can talk about, I haven't got any details about a launch, I don't think, in my diary of our, you talking about our program, Helen?
Yes, I think so, yes. There's both a statewide one, which the History will do, but I think from memory there'll be some type of launch as well to celebrate. Okay, we can talk about it at the meeting maybe. Yeah. Jacinta? Yeah, sorry, Chair.
Oh, that's okay, that's fine. All right, well, thank you for that, Jacinta. And what about the exhibition? Can you take us up to 7.3 now?
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to the committee members for providing feedback when I send out designs and concepts. It's always a challenge for exhibition designers and staff because we're very close to the subject. So we rely on your input to give us that step back and that community perspective. Sometimes we can create things that we understand what's going on, but won't necessarily reflect for people who might be coming to the exhibition for the first time or coming to Gawler's history for the first time. So we've got, update number 5, which was sent out to you a couple of weeks ago. That's essentially our floor plan layout. You'll notice that Richard's designing a stage between the 2 big glass cabinets. So concept is that they will be behind the scenes. They can access up steps should they wish, but there will be disability access around the rear. And then they'll move throughout the exhibition. A big part, one of the cabinets will be devoted to Hilda Heinrich. As the committee's aware, she produced those 2 lovely scrapbooks of events, theatre events, musicals from the 30s. And we, of course, have her portrait. So we'd like to talk in there about Hilda's story from a young woman. There's a lot of people in town who still remember her as an older woman and a librarian, but I think this is our opportunity to talk about a little bit more about her in her entirety, and that's a really lovely female perspective. We're always aware in our collection that we don't have a great deal that tells the story of the women of Gawler, so this is an opportunity to do that within the realms and the narrative of this exhibition. You'll notice that we've got a section for Debs and balls. We have 1 Deb dress at the moment, and what I'm hoping is that with a call out to the community, we might have a number of Deb dresses and ball dresses, because I can easily update that. So if I had 6 over a 12-month period, every 2 months I could change the fashion and put that in, and that's a lovely way to refresh an exhibition, so it doesn't have to stay static. We've accumulated from a number of different community members and their personal collections some very Gawler relevant posters, documents, invitations that will be in there. And of course, there's a list of items from our collection. We'll be finalising that in the next few weeks. So I will circulate the list of items that will be going in to the exhibition. Sometimes that changes at the last minute on the reasoning of the exhibition designer, but generally it doesn't. It's going to be quite theatrical. Very different to the previous exhibitions. And I think if we think about the fact that the committee recommended to council our next exhibition, which is on communication, it'll have a very different look. And I think, as I've said before, I think that's very important, that when we have a static space, we change it up so that people always think that when they're coming back to the Heritage Gallery, they're having a new experience. It won't be the same experience. This will be a lot of fun and colourful. I'm anticipating our next one will be a bit more scientific, because we will be talking about telecommunications. And so it will be a different feel, and I think that's very healthy. So did the committee have any particular questions about the exhibition at this stage?
I'd just like to say that I was able to get contact with Hilda Heinrich's grandson, who's a very good friend of my son. And he's hopefully bringing up next week a box full of stuff about original documents and photographs and all sorts of things. So hopefully that's coming up. The other thing I wanted to mention was the Gawler Ladies Hellfire Ensemble has a number of videos, and they're very funny. We never took ourselves seriously as a choir. And if you would like to have a look at some of those, they're old videos, they're not modern ones. They're 20 years old or more. So I'm happy to bring some of those in if you want me to.
I have through the chair, I have a series of posters that go with the Ladies Hellfire. So that could supplement it.
Yeah.
And the other thing I'm sure the grandson will realise is that there's an extremely strong link. Hilda and her husband.
Hermansburg Mission.
That's right.
Very
early
detailed.
Days. Very strong.
Very detailed. A very detailed amount of information, including an incredible set of historic photographs that the Heinrich family have donated to the State Library.
So we've got that Aboriginal link again, which is, I think, probably worth.
There may even be in that photographic collection, I finished looking at it today, links to communication, early Alice Springs photographs, which were very interesting.
I can't remember, but I've come across it online, and I struggled. His name was Adolf Heinrich, but of course, given that he was known
Dolph. He was known as
Yeah.
Herman Adolf. Yeah. Known as Dolph. Yeah. And they were fluted out of Hermansburg because they took sides with the Aboriginal people, which
interesting.
Very, very interesting. A very interesting family.
Mm.
All right. Any further discussion on exhibition update? No? All right. Thank you for that, Jacinta. Item 8, items listed for discussion at future meetings. Does anyone want to raise anything in relation to that? No? Any questions?
Just quick.
Sorry. Yeah, go.
Judy, just on the next exhibition on communications, will there be a workshop similar to what we did with music? Did we do one on music? Or it'd just be interesting because it's quite a scientific, it's very different to arts and culture. I'm just wondering what the thoughts of staff are, how you will elicit information from the community around communication.
Do you want to respond to that, Jacinta?
So through the chair, we had the exhibition workshop with Richard once a designer had been appointed, but perhaps the committee might like to think about having a workshop just with the committee initially to flesh out ideas, thoughts and stuff. And then again, after the procurement process, when a designer is appointed, we could then take that more formulated view to the designer, and that would help staff get ahead of the calendar year. So we would find that a helpful thing to do.
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
I think that would be a great idea.
Karen, would you like to move that formally?
Oh, yes. Do you want me to move a motion? Right, I'm happy to do that. I don't know. Got a blank today. Sorry, Judy.
We hold a workshop to discuss the next.
So a workshop be held at a future meeting with the committee to discuss the communications exhibition and develop concepts.
Yeah, ideas and concepts. Yeah.
Ideas and concepts.
Yeah. Thank you. All right. Would someone like to second that?
Sorry, through the chair, we might just wordsmith that just for the purposes of getting it into our work plan. So if we were to say that the Heritage Committee holds a discussion within, rather than a separate workshop, I don't want to necessarily hold a separate workshop, hold a discussion within the June 2022 meeting.
Thank you, David.
Probably, well, you could put informal discussion / workshop.
Yes, we could.
Within June. That way it makes it very clear what we're doing.
Yes.
Thank you, Sarah and David. Right. You're happy with that, Karen?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. And you indicated you were going to second that, Helen. Are you happy with that?
Yes, happy with that.
Okay, seconded, Helen. Seconded with a C in it, Sarah. That's it. Okay. Any discussion on that? No. Those in favour, please show. Anyone against? No. Carried unanimously. Thanks, everyone. Item 8, items listed for discussion at future meetings. Anything that other than what we've already discussed? No. Any questions without notice?
Yeah, I do.
Sorry, just on items listed for discussion. Sorry, I was turning my mic on. Just on, I wouldn't mind having, I know it's coming up to a meeting, but just understanding the priorities for restoration. You know, we get things offered to us, but we don't see what's behind that. So I'd like an understanding of where the collection's at as it relates to restoration, you know.
So you'd like a report on that?
Well, I think just having it items listed for discussion, it's coming up, and I think rather than just saying we want to do these 2 items, for example, I'd like to have a bit more of an understanding of what sits behind the 2 items and what, you know, what the list looks like, or what, you know, where we're up to, how much of the collection do we understand, what percentage of the collection do we understand, how many significance or assessments have been done, and, you know, how much more work is required to get through the entire collection. That's what I'd like to understand, just where we're at. Are we 10% through? Are we 30% through? And, you know, what percentage of the collection is requiring work, either through Art Lab or other external parties, etc. So that's the sort of thing I'd really like to understand.
Okay, that's a lot of things. I'm just wondering how we can précis that for the agenda, for the minutes. Are you happy with what we've got there at 8.1? Does that cover what you more or less want to say?
Priorities of the items. No, it partly. I think understanding the state of the collection, if that's possible, and where we're up to, of how much of the collection have we assessed.
Okay, so understanding the collection and then followed on by the priorities.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's not just understanding the provenance of the item. I'm talking about the restoration and it gives us an understanding of how much we need to allocate going forward over subsequent years, and what does that look like?
Okay,
if
so
that's possible. It may not be possible, but yeah.
Okay, after priorities, perhaps we could put also for restoration and conservation, because they're slightly different. Did you want to comment, Mr. Sinker or David, about how we can make
through the chair, if I could suggest understanding the physical state of items within the Gawler Heritage Collection,
that clarifies it? Yep.
and priorities for restoration and conservation of those items.
Yes.
So I think that's what it's about. It's the physical object state, not necessarily the collection itself. Yeah.
Not the provenance, of the item. Yeah, the provenance is a different issue.
Correct. Yeah.
Physical state, isn't it? The caring for them. Are you happy with that, Karen?
Yeah, I'm happy to move a motion without notice if staff, or is that part of what they would present anyway?
I'll have to be guided on that. Are people happy with the just remaining as an item listed for discussion, or should we remove it?
So through the chair, happy for it to remain as an item listed, because that gives us the indication to present the information accordingly, and it will be a report at some point in time, but this gives us an opportunity to discuss prior to a report as well.
Okay, thank you for that, David.
Thank you.
All right, any questions without notice? No?
Yes.
Yes, Helen has one, yes.
Helen.
Okay, just bear with me.
Ground.
Bit of background. All of you realise the benefit of having the bunyip on Trove. So it's an online searchable item. To enable that to happen, goes back several steps, starting with microfilming of the bunyip. Interestingly, since sometime this century, that's no longer necessary because the files are electronically transferred from the bunyip to the State Library. But for anything before 20th century going backwards, it has to be microfilmed. It is given to the State Library, who organise it for it to be digitised, and it gets fed into the National Library's Trove. The Gawler Public Library picked up the cost of microfilming it. And it was one of the last things I did while I was there was we did a batch. We found the money and paid for a batch. Unfortunately, what we've got to now is that nothing past 1950 is available of the bunyip on Trove. So I am very keen to have some information back from staff as to how we continue to ensure that the intervening years can be microfilmed and made available. It will probably involve some discussion with the State Library about how much. Once upon a time, there was a 50-year gap for copyright, but even if that still exists, we should be able to access up to 1970 online.
Helen, can you frame your question?
Sorry?
Would you frame your question?
My question would be, could staff please provide details about the ongoing microfilming of the bunyip?
Thank you. Any discussion? Any comments? No. Thank you, Helen.
Yeah. Can I?
Oh, sorry.
Can I
Is that not a request rather than a question?
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that a statement?
Well, it's a question, but it's also a sort of request, isn't it?
Does that require a motion to have that on file at some point? Because that's really asking for a report.
Yeah, it is. You're right.
Can I say
take guidance on that? Did you want to say something, Adrian? Sorry.
Yeah. Look. Regarding the newspapers on Trove, generally, there's a cut-off date of 1954 for the majority of them. And I was trying to look at this last week, and it seems like it was just a decision that was made, and I'm not quite sure what the basis was, possibly a copyright, sort of supposed possible copyright issue.
Okay.
But there's pretty well nothing after 1954.
Thank you. Look,
So I don't know if it's being taken forward by anybody, like nationally.
what I suggest is that as we make the question, and this is going back to Karen's comment as well. Oh, sorry about that, folks. That we actually ask just for a report about whether this is a feasible option or not, and if so, how we can proceed.
I'm happy to put a motion without notice when we get there, Chair.
Oh, okay, fine.
Okay.
Thank you.
It just formalises as a report,
All right.
and it gives staff adequate direction to be able to act on something.
Happy to do that. Can I just add in, just again, a little bit of background? Is I understand that the history team may well have allocated funds to get one of the earlier, was it the Gawler Standard? One of the newspapers was going to be microfilmed. I don't know where and how or what happened with that process. So I guess maybe that needs to be investigated as well, so that we don't inadvertently overcross, I suppose.
Are you just talking about the Bunyip or other papers?
No, when the Bunyip first started, there was 2 other newspapers in Gawler. And so I guess we should be mindful of that as well, or maybe see if we can find out.
So can you frame the motion for us?
I'll try. Are we ready for that? Are you happy for me to start wordsmithing?
Yes, please.
And Helen, you jump in anytime. That the Gawler Heritage request staff provide a report to a future meeting. That gives them enough time on details regarding microfilming of the Bunyip newspaper and this is where I might need your help, Helen, with the history team connection.
On
how do we word that?
And
So
other early Gawler newspapers.
And other early Gawler newspapers.
That'll do, I think.
Report on details regarding microfilming of the Bunyip newspaper and other early Gawler newspapers. So I guess we don't need to put in the Gawler history team. I guess that can be a given Jacinta that you could.
Well, I think the staff would be quite well able to do that.
Yes. So does that make sense? Request staff provide a report to a future meeting on details regarding microfilming of the Bunyip newspaper and other early Gawler newspapers. So is that enough? I think that on details regarding, so the details would be costings, history,
where the gaps are, and what plan perhaps of how we meet, or
Yeah, I wouldn't make it too wordy.
No. Do you think we need that, or is details enough?
I don't think you do, because I think you're dealing with Jacinta, and she knows what she's doing. So I just think that's enough. I think.
Adrian's got his hand up.
Adrian, go for it.
Would it be microfilming or digitising? Because in the sense of the Trove, the material that they have is
that's a very good point.
Be to jump straight to digitisation somehow.
Thank you. Yes, as long as that captures any work that's been done after 1954, or whenever it stopped, when it's whatever's not on Trove. And I think you're right, it is whatever.
So do you want to add after 1984 at the end of that sentence?
No.
No,
I think we'll leave it broad. Because we might have those dates wrong.
Okay. Yep. Fair enough. Good.
Through the chair, I'd just like to add a clarifying at the very end that are within the collection, because we just need to be careful that the remit of this committee is related to the heritage collection.
Yep.
If we're talking about digitisation of the newspapers and Bunyip in general that are just out in the world that aren't part of the collection, it's outside our remit.
Sure.
Thank you, David.
Sure.
Yeah, good. That's good.
Thank you.
All right. So it's been moved by Karen, seconded by Helen. Any discussion? Any further discussion? No. If not, those in favour, please show. Against, carried. Thank you. Thank you, Helen.
And thank you for the next. It's my learning. Next time I'll put it more as a motion without notice rather than a question without notice. I do have a second one though. Sorry, question. I'm just wondering whether staff could update us, please, on the forthcoming lunchtime concerts with the Lunchtime piano.
Yes, I'll be very happy to update the committee on our Listening at Lunchtime program. So for our first event, we will have Sophie Brown, who's an accomplished pianist, and she'll be playing the Bechstein. We also have Jesse Entriken, who is a young man who graduated from Year 12 Musical Studies last year, and he'll be playing guitar, doing improvised blues and jazz. We'll have Jeff Guest, I should say, who will be reading from his latest collection of poetry. We are collecting the names of other people who have indicated to us that they would be interested in that program. At this stage, we'll be running these lunchtime concerts once a month, but certainly if we can get a program of performers, we'll do that more often. And if I could take this opportunity just to inform the committee that the Girl with the Dogs painting that was conserved at Art Lab will be being installed in the reading room next week, and that the interpretation for the reader rail for the paintings that are currently on display, with an emphasis on the women who donated those paintings, is with the designer at the moment. They'll come back hopefully shortly, and I may ask for some feedback on the design and certainly feedback on any spelling, grammar errors and all the rest of it. And they'll be installed shortly into the reading room as well.
When will that happen?
So the painting is going up next Tuesday, early in the morning before the library is open to the public. And the interpretation will be installed when it's finalised. That's with the designer, but I'm certainly hoping that's within the next couple of weeks.
Okay. And what about the listening at lunchtime? What days of the week are they?
That is, I'm sorry, I'll have to take that one on notice. It's a Wednesday in the Fringe.
Okay, so it'll be in the program. It's in the program?
It's in the Fringe program. Yes, it is in the Fringe program.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Jacinta.
I just think it would be helpful if we as a committee could help promote that. I'm not sure, I'm very much aware of Facebook posts, but I don't think that necessarily gets to the whole community.
I still think that articles in the Bunyip.
Yes.
I thought of that earlier, Jacinta, when you were talking about Deb gowns. They're both good articles for the Bunyip. And I've said this before, I'm happy to write stuff up if you just send me sort of the bare bones of what you'd like to see, because I think they both would lend themselves to articles. Mm-hmm. And I think that Bunyip would pick them up.
Thank you. Through the chair, I'd appreciate that. We're a bit stretched for time resources at the moment, so I can certainly provide some dots.
Before, actually, a long time ago, actually. Yeah. All right. So if you just give me a couple of sentences for each thing and then I can build it into an article. That's fine. I'm happy to do that. Is there any other discussion anyone wants to? If not, I'll close the meeting. Thank you, everyone, and keep well and healthy and happy and all that.